أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أجعلتم سقاية الحاج وعمارة المسجد الحرام كمن آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وجاهد في سبيل الله لا يستوون عند الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم أعظم درجة عند الله وأولئك هم الفائزون يبشرهم ربهم برحمة منه ورضوان وجنات لهم فيها نعيم مقيم خالدين فيها أبدا إن الله عنده أجر عظيم صدق الله العظيم. The mushrikun of Mecca, the polytheists of Mecca, as we mentioned before, they were very proud of the fact that they were those that would manage the haram. They would take care of the administrative affairs of it. And after, or during Badr and even after Badr, there's an incident in which after Abbas radiallahu anhu accepts Islam, after Fathu Mecca, or at the time of Fathu Mecca, Abbas radiallahu anhu, Talha bin Shaybah, and Ali radiallahu anhu, they have a conversation in which Talha says that I feel that I am the most honored person, something along those lines, that I have the keys to the Baytullah. He had the keys to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That this is the greatest honor. If I want, I can sleep the night there as well. Abbas responded that you're speaking of that. I have the administration of the haram, or from those that administer it. And I also give water to the hujjaj, siqayat al-hajj. Water means the zamzam. He's in charge of giving zamzam to the hujjaj that come. And definitely these are all very honorable and great virtuous deeds and fadail that we can say. Ali radiallahu anhu responded and he says that I accepted Iman, he was from the first of those that accepted Islam. And I engaged in the jihad with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So in the context of such incidents, these ayat are revealed that أجعلتم سقاية الحاج وعمارة المسجد الحرام كمن آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وجاهد في سبيل الله. That the Quran gives a hierarchy. That definitely these things are important, but the foundation of Iman is the most important thing, as Ali radiallahu anhu pointed out, and sacrificing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of these fada'il and virtues are good. They are good in their own right, but without Iman, firstly, there is no benefit to that. And comparing it to Iman itself, it's also not as virtuous as Iman itself. And jihad fi sabilillah, sacrificing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, itself is a higher form. There is a higher form of deed in this struggle versus doing something such as administering the masjid and administration of that, or giving water to the hujjaj. So there is this idea of a hierarchy, the Quran Kareem establishes. And at the same time, the Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the foundation and the most important. لا يستوون عند الله. These people, they are not all equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of this is not the same. Yes, certain actions based on certain times become more important because of the need of that time. That's in its place. But in general also, there is a form of what we consider to be more important than others. And over here, there's also an issue to understand that fada'il and virtuous things, things, those cannot overtake the things which a person must do. Obligations remain obligations. Okay. If someone says that I'm going to send iftar to my neighbors, that's a great thing, but I'm not fasting. Right. So that sending iftar doesn't expiate the idea that you're not going to fast now. Okay? That's your obligation. On top of that, you want to engage in this other virtuous act of. It's very loud today. Throat's also a little better, mashallah. So, because you want to engage in this good deed, that doesn't take away your responsibility of obligations. Masail on one side, fada'il on the other side. Yawm al-Qiyamah, firstly a person is asked about masail, obligations. That needs to be in order. They say, no, I gave, I baked a cake for my neighbor and I did this and I did that. That's great, that's good. But did you pray your salah? Did you give your zakah? Did you perform your hajj if it was obligatory? So obligations don't fall off because you want to do something extra, something nice. The father in a house, he brings candy for the child, but there's no bread. That's a problem, right? If you bring candy and chocolate, but there's no bread, and there isn't what a person needs to eat to live, giving a gift here and there, but you don't take care of the clothing of a child, you don't provide shelter to your children, but you want to buy them toys, that doesn't make sense, right? There's a hierarchy of responsibility. Once that's fulfilled, or at the same time, that cannot be ignored. If you can't ignore what needs to be done and say, no, I did this optional thing, that can't work. لا يستوون عند الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give hidayah and does not guide those that have adopted a lifestyle of dhulm. This ayah also shows that taqwa and ita'ah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also opens a person's intellect and their insight. The Quran Kareem says, those that adopt taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gives them nuran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yahdi qalbah as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows what's the right thing through adoption of ita'at and taqwa. Ma'asi and deviance and wrongdoings also put a veil in front of a person's eyes that they don't see right for right, good for good, wrong for wrong, what's best for what's not the best thing. That's one dhulma, one darkness of ma'asi and wrong things. The sin takes away from a person's good discretion as well. One is that he adopts a style that we say that this is impermissible in terms of hereafter, that's one thing. But the bad effect of that is, the dhulma, the darkness of that is that even judging between what is good and bad, the idea to decipher between these things, that also gets taken away from that person. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا. The Quran Kareem stresses that those who engage, those that believe, they've done their hijrah, وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ. They struggled in the path of Allah with their lives, their wealth. أَعْظَمُ دَرَجَةً عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. They are greater than everyone else. Iman, hijrah for the sake of Allah, jihad fi sabilillah, all of that, that's on one side. Everything else, the whole world can be on the other side. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. Those are the people who are truly successful and triumphant. So the Sahaba, the group of Sahaba, and then even amongst the Sahaba, the Quran says, لَا يَسْتَوِي مِنْكُمْ مَنْ أَنْفَقَ مِنْ قَبْلِ الْفَتْحِ وَقَاتَلَ أُولَٰئِكَ أَعْظَمُ دَرَجَةً. Those that accepted Iman before Fathu Makkah, their struggle, that's not the same as those that accept Iman after Fathu Makkah. Those that engage in Badr from those that accept Iman after Badr. Right. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ يُبَشِّرُهُمْ رَبُّ. What's the reward for this? يُبَشِّرُهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِرَحْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ وَرِضْوَانٍ وَجَنَّاتٍ. So three things were mentioned in this ayah, verse 20, Iman, Hijrah, and Jihad fi sabilillah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also promises three things here. Rahmah, Ridwan, and Jannat. That just as Iman is the foundation and the first thing, Rahmah is the most general of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ni'am and benefits. Second was the hijrah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So over here Allah subhanahu الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا. So hijrah for the sake of Allah, then jihad fi sabilillah. So for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has Ridwan. the ridwan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for jihad fi sabilillah. That person gave up the most dear thing, the dearest of a person's thing to him, his life, he gave that up, he sacrificed that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that my ridwan is for you. If you have the ridwan, the pleasure of Allah ta'ala, what's there after that? وَجَنَّاتٍ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them paradise. لَهُمْ فِيهَا نَعِيمٌ مُقِيمٌ. Why jannat? Because hijrah. In hijrah, what happens? A person leaves his home, he migrates for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hijrah for the sake of Allah, not hijrah for making more money, going from one place to another. Why? Because there's more opportunity to make money there. That's not hijrah for the sake of Allah. That's not what a person gets reward for. Permissible and impermissible is a separate issue. I'm saying that that doesn't fall under this ayah. So hijrah there was that they sacrificed and left their homes for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of iman. So for them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we will give you better homes in Jannah. You left your home for the sake of Allah, you get the home of Jannah. وَجَنَّاتٍ لَهُمْ فِيهَا نَعِيمٌ مُقِيمٌ. The na'im and the delight of Jannah will be forever. It takes away from a blessing, a bounty, that it's something which is temporary, surely. That if it comes and it goes, then you're remorseful that it's no longer there. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا بَدَى. Two things about Jannah. It's da'im, it's continuous, and you will be there forever. If a person goes for a vacation to some beautiful island, then after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he leaves it. So the island is still there, right? The beauty of that, all of that's still there, but he's no longer there. So there's a remorse there, right? He's regretting, oh, that was so nice, the scenery, this and that, all these things, it was very nice over there. So Jannah will be there forever, and you will be there in it forever as well. Both. The blessing is perpetual, and your stay in it will also be perpetual. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا بَدَى إِنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a magnificent reward for a person, something that a person cannot even imagine. We'll make dua to Allah ta'ala, give us understanding. Allows us to do those things which will, by means of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will admit us into Jannah.